Welcome to this next episode of YouTube, where we have a pack in the neighborhood, and not another pack of wolves, but some sled dogs from the U.S. Forest Service office. During the wintertime, they use sled dogs to transport materials into the wilderness, and they're temporarily housed over at the Forest Service across the road. And usually when we do wolf care, if one of the wolves is up towards the back end of the enclosure, we usually know something's going on, and they don't tend to use that area as frequently. So when we see somebody up there, like Denali is in this photo, we check it out. Initially we thought it was just him guarding some food because there was a deer carcass that it was fed on Saturday night, and he had part of the food up there, and he was chasing ravens. So we thought that was a little bit typical for wolves to guard and keep ravens away. But what was odd about it was that Aiden was a little bit anxious, and so Aiden's not usually anxious about food possession and ravens. So we started to investigate it a little bit more, and we started to hear some sounds coming from across the road, some barking and some howling, which we had known in advance that the sled dogs were going to be around, but we weren't sure what days. So the reactions between the wolves were completely different. Denali was very comfortable, had no concerns whatsoever about the barking and the howling across the road, and continues to chew on his deer leg, which is what you're hearing here. But Grizzer started to kind of do a little defensive howl, and so I'll let you listen to this. In the background is Grizzer, in the foreground is Denali chewing on his leg. As I said, Aiden had a little bit of anxiety about it. He tended to stay on the beds, and he was alert, as you can see by his ears are pricked forward, but he was a little bit uncomfortable about it. They're off to the side a little bit, showing a little bit of anxiety and uncomfortable nature with the surrounding dogs across the road. He's used to Oscar, but he's not necessarily used to a pack of sled dogs. And as we said, that stimulated Grizzer, and Grizzer got very excited, lots of whining. And it was hard for us to keep up with him. He just started racing around the pen and doing his typical jump up on the den, check things out, race around to the front. And at first we thought he was looking for Oscar because Oscar had been out but was back in the lab. When we do wolf care, we keep Oscar in the lab so that we don't have any distractions while we're trying to take care of the animals. And then we figured he just got excited because it's what the Grizzer does. He likes to get excited and he likes to run. If you're filming during wolf care and he does this, you have to be very careful that you're not in the path of his raceway. He will run right over you, sometimes jump right over you if you're in the way. So he was continuing to watch and to be stimulated, and again looking for the source of the sound, which was on the back side of the retirement. So he's kind of looking around and trying to figure out where that sound's coming from, who it is, and a lot of stimulus, and not negative stimulus. His tail's up, he's excited about it, so it's not a bad thing. It's just one of those things that happens during the winter time. So we finally do get to do wolf care, where we actually get to physically check him out, and he relaxes, and we check his paws, we check everything about him, make sure at this age that there's no unusual lumps, that his teeth are doing okay, that he's got any conformation issues or any abnormalities. As a wolf nears 8, you start to see some weird things like fatty cysts or things. So we could only do that for a short period of time because the stimulus was pretty high. So he continues to race around, and this is now the view from the front end of the enclosure. In the previous view, we had been in the back side with his new den shooting back towards the front of the wolf yard. Now we're next to the wolf yard and looking the other way. And what we do notice is when he does get excited, he stops for a moment and he postures against the fence. You see his tail go up in a T2 and sometimes a T1 tail posture, and that's him posturing towards the retired wolves. And you see what Shadow thinks about Grizzer's posturing. But Shadow is again keyed into that sound, and as being the pack leader, he's one of those that would have a stronger influence or a stronger interpretation of that howling as being more defensive, and we did see that. And I'll let you listen to the howling here of Shadow defending against the pack of sled dogs. So that was both Shadow, and then the second clip was Malik howling, so you could see both of them were actively engaged. As we said, it was a little stressful for him. We saw an elevated, more panting, which is usually indicative of elevated body temperature, eating some snow, getting a little bit more stressed about it than Denali, who had the least amount of stress, Grizzer, who had the highest amount of interest, and Shadow, who probably had the most amount of defensive territorial response to it, and then Aiden's anxiety probably fits pretty well with Shadow. A little bit of anxiety. These pack leaders tend to take in some of these threats a little bit more seriously. Of course, after a little bit of anxiety from Shadow, we're going to see a little more posturing. So you're going to see a chin rest on Malik, and you're going to hear some growling between the two of them. Malik's doing a face-off, just kind of trying to face off to Shadow and approaching from the side. And Shadow gets a little bit more intense and just kind of rests that chin on Malik's back, reminding Malik that he's still in charge. So that was stimulated all by this group of dogs that were across the road. Wolves do not like change, and that is one thing that we've learned over the years, is keeping the routine the same and avoiding any issues is real significant. So one other thing we'd like to report, we did have a contact from the people who provided us Malik and Shadow. Malik and Shadow's mother passed away, and she was 21 years old. So there's some genetics for you. And we finished this YouTube with Oscar and his moose bone. And Oscar heard the sled dogs and listened, but didn't really care much to interact. Not when you got a moose bone or a moose jaw that's a little bit more entertaining. So just another typical day in the wolf yard of Oscar interacting, and again, his purpose in the wolf yard is to provide a little stimulus and a little distraction, especially when things are a little bit stressed. And so we keep him in the wolf yard, let him kind of do what he wants, and Grizzer will seek him out, and oftentimes will lay down right adjacent to the fence there, or in this case today, loses interest and goes to the back of the exhibit. But the main point is Grizzer has something else to focus on. That's it for YouTube this week. Again, thanks for watching.